These are the plaintiffs, Camille and David. Camille says she and her husband purchased a 100-year-old house from the defendants, who promised them the fireplaces and chimneys were in good working order. As it turns out, they were not in working order and were in fact fire hazards. Shame on the defendants for putting our family's lives in jeopardy. They're suing for $7,000, the amount they need to get everything fixed correctly. These are the defendants, Kristen, Donna, and Lisa. Kristen says the plaintiffs had the house inspected. All the issues that came up were resolved. And now, 9 months later, they're suing for chimney cleaning? They've never had any problems with the chimneys, are shocked they're getting sued, and don't owe them anything but a good riddance. They're accused of firing up a lawsuit.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket. The plaintiffs bought a 100-year-old house from the defendants. They were promised, they say, that the chimneys were in tip-top shape. They were death traps, they say. But the defendants say they inspected the house so tough. It's the case of chimney chumps.
Okay, Camille and David. Everybody's asked not to mention their last names. You are suing Kristen and Donna and their realtor, Lisa, for selling you a house that, according to you, had a great deal of damage in the chimneys. What happened?
We asked about the chimneys prior to closing in an email to our realtor, in a list of questions for other things.
So did you have a realtor?
We did.
And
yes.
they had a realtor?
Yes.
Okay. Was it an as-is sale or no? You should know.
Yes.
Can I see the sale contract? So go on.
So they came back with, one of the questions was about the chimneys. They said the chimneys were fine. They'd had them.
Wait. One of the questions
One of the
by
questions in an email prior to closing.
From whom to whom?
From me to my realtor, which then was passed on to their realtor. The response was, the chimneys are fine. We've had them cleaned. And then during the closing.
What day was the closing?
May 22nd of last year.
Okay.
In the seller's statement of property condition number 23 was.
Let me see that.
The chimneys are fine.
Chimney fireplace. Date last cleaned, 1 year. Problems, no. Okay. So go on.
So closing went fine. We had a VA inspection. The inspection came back fine.
Did they inspect the chimneys?
They don't. And
Well, why didn't you pay somebody to inspect the chimney?
Good question, because we took their word for it in the response from the questions going through the realtors and then the disclosure
Do you have
statement.
the emails from realtors
I
to
do.
realtors?
They're actually attached to that in the front, I think.
Do you actually have the email from Lisa? Because this is just an email from your realtor to you.
I do, but I didn't print that
Okay,
out.
you did send an email to her realtor answering some questions, right? Yeah, actually, I just need her by microphone.
I responded to it, yes, and let her know that per the seller's disclosure that they hadn't had any previous problems with the chimney and that they had had it cleaned. They weren't sure it was approximately a year ago, prior to the sale.
Okay. So go on.
So closing went fine. I, taunted my husband with, we should probably get these inspected after moving in.
No, you couldn't think
Or
of that
at least,
before?
the very least,
You couldn't
cleaned.
think of that before?
Well, no, you're right. I should have thought about it before, but taking
You
word
couldn't
for
think
it-
about that? Why am I giving her all the heat? You couldn't think about that before?
Yeah. So we had an inspection, and it came back, as my gut said, with, the wood burning chimney was not in good condition. The liner was pretty deteriorated. And then they did the oil burning inspection.
All right, there's two chimneys.
A wood burning regular fire chimney, and then an oil burning chimney for the oil heat.
And both of them had a problem?
Both.
And you had to pay how much to fix them?
Over $5,000.
Okay, so you've come here today suing for the $5,000 because that's their fault, because what?
Because they said that they had them cleaned, and according to our 2 inspections, they have not been cleaned, and they were in pretty bad shape.
Okay, you said 2 different things. According to our 2 inspections, they had not been cleaned and they were in pretty bad shape.
Right.
Show me the 2 inspections that say they had not been cleaned and they're in pretty bad shape. And while you're looking for it, let me ask you 2 ladies. You 2 are sisters?
Yes.
Oh,
Donna
wait,
and
yeah,
I.
that's right.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so you 2 are sisters, and you 2 owned the house together?
Yes.
All right, you hired Lisa. Is Lisa related to you, too?
She's our cousin and our
She's your
realtor.
cousin.
Yep.
All right, tell me about the chimney and the maintenance of that chimney throughout the time. How long did you own the house?
4 years.
Okay, tell me about the maintenance of that chimney throughout that time.
Had it cleaned. It worked the whole time we were there. This is the receipt from the chimney guy here.
Okay.
These are the receipts.
Now, this is the cleaning people who you hired.
Yep.
All right. In fact, one of the estimates says the liner appears as though it's never been swept. And then you got an email from the owner of the company that cleaned your place, and he's actually the guy that cleaned your place. It's a one-man company, right? Saying that he cleaned and inspected Kristen's chimney and wood stove roughly 2 years ago. At the time of the cleaning and inspection, there was nothing out of the ordinary to report. Okay. Well, as it turns out, they have ended up having to pay all of this money, over $5,000, and they feel that it's your fault, and you feel that it is not. Why?
So if the plaintiffs had the house inspected but didn't bother to inspect the chimney, tough luck?
Yes, tough luck, because they had their opportunity and they blew it. They should have had somebody who did a more thorough job of inspecting.
So when you're saying you inspect it, that means you either fully inspect it or you take your chances.
You fully inspect it.
Okay? Going inside the courtroom.
Your Honor, I don't feel it's our responsibility. It worked for us for 4 years. I have no idea what happened in the last year that they've had it. I mean,
When was the
historic
first,
winter,
the
I
closing
don't
was
know.
in May, and when was the first time you heard from them?
February had the thing from court.
So the first time you realized that they wanted you to foot the bill was in February, almost a year late. All right. Here's a problem that you have, okay? In order for a homeowner, a new homeowner, a buyer, to be able to sue the seller for a lie that you detrimentally relied upon in buying the house, and that's your premise. They told us it was fine, it wasn't fine. You have to be able to prove they lied. How did she lie? She hired somebody to clean it.
Well, then he lied to her because.
Well, then he lied to her. Okay. But how did she lie to you? Because that's what you have to prove to get somebody else to pay for, listen, is this your first home or no?
It is, yes.
Yeah. Oh, it's a money pit, honey. If you think this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
This is just the beginning.
Oh, trust me, there's been several things since.
Yeah, of course it is. That's the joy and the torture of home ownership,
Right.
that now you can't just call your landlord and say, fix it. Now you've got to fix it. Now you
Right.
understand why your landlord was avoiding your calls, because it's expensive, right?
I'm fine fixing things,
Yeah.
but, it was a sticking point for me. I asked my realtor.
Can I just say something to you?
Yeah.
Because you say in kind of dramatic language, which is good, in your complaint about how I'm a mother and I have children and everything else. Why didn't the two of you demand that a house that is a 100-year-old house have the chimneys inspected for safety before you bought the house?
Because we relied on a VA
No, that's just silly.
inspector.
You don't know these people. You can't be because we relied on them is not an answer. If you're really that worried
I'm
about your
not saying I
children.
relied on them. I relied on a VA inspector.
Okay, well, here's the problem with, quote, relying on them. You're fine to rely on them. They reported completely honestly, we cleaned it a year ago. That's it. That's all they said. So there's no relying on anything because, yeah, okay, you relied on them that they cleaned it a year ago. That means that the liner's not an issue, that other stuff is not an issue. You need to have that inspected. So to save the couple $100 extra, you ended up, you could have negotiated that in the purchase price of the house.
Very right, very right.
Right. So now you know for the next time. Verdict for the defendants.
Thank you.
So the owners of the money pit come out here and step in a little bit. What's going through your mind here after what the judge ruled?
Well, I think not all the evidence was considered, but, I understand that law is law, so.
Yeah. So what have you learned there from the ruling?
I learned that people make bad choices. It wasn't necessarily the seller's bad choice, but it was the guy that cleaned them. I mean, he put them in jeopardy, too.
Yeah.
They were in pretty bad shape.
Well, you sued the wrong people.
Mine was just to hold someone accountable. It's not about the money. It's about holding people accountable.
Maybe getting a more thorough inspection before you
Right.
plunk down your check. All right. Around the corner following Officer McIntosh there. You can't please everyone. Those are some very unhappy customers right there.
They are.
They're not happy with the court, and they're not happy with you.
They sued the wrong people.
Well, how would you feel if you were them?
I wouldn't have taken us to court.
Harvey?
Okay, this is a classic case of being penny wise and pound foolish. If you hire somebody to do an inspection, make sure they do a thorough inspection before signing off on the house.